let them eat cake.
Hey, take the bomb.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. We're back, Ron.
Yes.
Back.
Yes.
Friday off. Daughter got married. Wow. Tears were shed. That was pretty sad. It wasn't sad. It was joyous. But it was sad. My little girl, you know. On Thursday night, we watched Father of the Bride. And, you know, there's that famous scene where he's sitting at the table and his daughter's, you know, talking about wanting to get married. And he's like, you can't. That's final. Not while you're living under my house. She's like, Dad, I'm 22.
When she's got the little pigtails.
Yeah, he sees a little flashback, a little girl. Daddy, I met him in Woman. He's so wonderful. And I want to get married. I had that experience a couple times this weekend with my daughter. I was like, oh my goodness. Anyways, wedding went wonderful. Ron, thank you for joining us there. That was awesome. What a celebration, man. Holy smoke. So I have a son-in-law now. That's like, I feel like there's this milestone that's been passed. It's like, I feel like I've walked into a whole new category of parenting. It's like, well, now you've got kids that aren't even yours.
Yeah. You know? Different paradigm.
Yep. And then, of course, you know, all the talk the weekend after the wedding. When do you think they're going to have a baby? When are we going to have grandkids?
No pressure.
And it's like the thing that no parent wants to hear. They're going to wait a couple years. I don't want to wait a couple years. You know. Anyways, she was engaged for almost a year. And so for the last year, basically, you know, a couple months after I got home, there's been this date on the calendar. You can't plan anything, can't do anything, can't spend any money because we got to get ready for this wedding.
The entire universe has to focus.
The entire universe. So after the wedding happened, my wife and I are saying to ourselves, like, man, this feels like got 6 months left in the year. Like, what are we going to do? Should we whip out the calendar and plan some stuff? I mean,
Christmas is so far away.
Oh my goodness. She's like, it's time to start Christmas shopping. You know, it's like, there is a lot of stuff to do. I got to give credit to my wife. She really pulled it off. And there were some wonderful people who helped her. Some of you might even be listening to the show. Thank you very much. Let's look at the chats here. Good morning for Frazier from Boise. Ponyboy, good morning. Pray the Rosary Daily. Happy Taco Tuesday. Yes, yes, yes. Sarah Sings, good morning. Sarah Sings, congratulations. Thank you so very much. John Atakis, missed you yesterday. I know, I missed myself as well. I do miss the show, and I feel like I get out of practice if I'm gone for more than a day or two. Oh, John Attack, Carlito says, good morning, y'all. Carlito, Tiffany, howdy, y'all. Man, you guys, a lot of you guys are talking today. John Atakis, Ron was there?
Yeah,
talking to you, Ron. Yeah,
if you missed me, that's going to be that's on you because I was sticking out. I was not blending in.
Ron came in the flannels. That's probably what it is. John Zackus, Ron was there. Miss talking to you. Ponyboy 3255. Congratulations. Glad it went good. And for Razor, great day, great people, great new beginnings. Yes, it's very exciting. I just, you know, you've got that big day, and I realized that my daughter's world does not revolve around me. The way she was looking at that boy, it was like, oh my goodness, I've lost my little girl. But anyways, very, very fun. So I know why you guys pile in here bright and early, and thanks for making it. You probably didn't even know if there was going to be a show today. I wasn't sure either. I actually came back from my family reunion because that's kind of what we doubled up on, wedding, family reunion. Came back from my family reunion last night late because I was like, we have got to stream some hours today. So later on today, you're going to be watching me sitting at my desk, probably doing some other work, not even talking, just because I got to put the hours in. And we're pimping for chats. Everybody who's chatted so far, I recognize you from the chats regularly. We need one more chatter before tomorrow, and we are down to the wire. So we're back to the beginning, Ron, pimping for chats. Pimping for chat. So please, 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 even if you have a burner account on Rumble, get on in, go chat.
And also, we might throw a raid or two in there that will send you someplace. Come back, please.
Come right back, please. Come right back. We need 2 raids, and we got 1 day to stream. So, all right, I know why you guys come in so bright and early. It's for the simultaneous sip, and all you need is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, a chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day while we listen to McCarthy talk about communism. And it's the simultaneous sip, and it starts right now.
One communist on the faculty of one university is one communist too many. One communist among the American advisors at Yalta was one communist too many. And even if there were only one communist in the State Department, even if there were only one communist in the State Department, there could still be one communist too many.
Preach, brother.
Yeah, preacher. It turns out he was right about everything.
Dang.
It's so funny how we create this aura around, oh, we don't want to be like McCarthy hunting down communists. It's like,
Right.
should have let the guy finish the job. There were too many communists everywhere. Pony Boy says, do they let you replay old episodes on live towards your hours? Yeah, there's a way I can kind of game the system. I just might do that. We'll see. John Atakis, I will always step in. It was wonderful seeing all the family, but I did not get all the pictures I wanted. It snowed in Salt Lake City over the weekend. Oh my goodness, Ron, did you see the weather from Boise?
I heard there was some hail, but I haven't seen any of it.
So I did not pull it up. I don't have a video, saved, but I saw a video of like a residential neighborhood down in Garden City.
Yeah.
I think Garden City.
I got to give my brother a call and see what he saw.
It was like a river of ice in the road.
Yeah, I heard they got like 8 to 12 inches of hail in like 20 minutes. Like, boom.
It might have like destroyed a lot of crops. Like, it might be a real significant problem. Anyways, yeah, we were kind of looking at some videos of that, and we were like, what is going on here?
I wasn't really paying attention to that. I was mostly paying attention to all the fires. Like, Utah's on fire. I was like, what is going on down there?
Yeah. It's like every summer, though. It seems like some summer.
Well,
worse than
have you
others.
been watching it? Like,
No, I haven't. I mean, I've been
I think there has been some arson involved. Like, Cottonwood Canyon is gone.
Oh, man.
Yeah, like somebody was trying to light the city on fire.
Ooh. Yeah. It just seems that kind of feels like the season we're in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. So Jeep Erasure, it was not AI. No, it was not. We even had to look it up to make sure it wasn't. So yeah, it was a video that looks just almost AI. It was like ice, river, and street voicing. It was like, what's this? And my wife checked AI. Sure enough, it's authentic video, and but the unverified accounts, so there were 8 inches. There are no official reports. It's all anecdotal. It's like, okay, so everything else is true in the post.
Don't believe your eyes.
Yeah, don't believe your eyes. Someday we're gonna have a completely fake, fabricated video, and AI is gonna be like totally legit. So this weekend at the family reunion, they kind of did a hunting for Bigfoot theme. And we had a gorilla costume that one of the in-laws was dressing up in. And so where we went, he'd go hide in the bushes. And then the adults would like take a picture of him, and then the kids would look at, oh my gosh, you got a picture of Bigfoot. So one of the kids, one of the cousins, like nieces and nephews, gets on AI, how to tell if a picture's AI or not, and puts the picture into AI, and AI comes back, no, it's an authentic picture, because it was a picture of the brother-in-law in a gorilla suit. And it's like, shadows are consistent. Everything's consistent. She's like, oh my God, this is a picture of Bigfoot. No, it's a picture of a man in a gorilla costume that is a real picture. So it's not AI, but that does not mean the Bigfoot is real. So heads up. You can still game AI with a legit picture if you just have a costume of something. Jeep Erasure says, we have fires on the Wasatch Mountainside. Oh, yeah. That's not good. That's not good at all. All right. So speaking of communism, this is one of the great themes of our show, is that we fight communism, right? We call it by the name collectivism, but it comes in the form of communism, socialism, liberalism, progressivism, religionism, theocracy, all these isms, right? Anything that puts the collective's interest above your personal interest falls into the category of collectivism. And that mentality, the sacrificing of yourself, your personal well-being on behalf of, quote, the collective, whether it's your comrades, your nation state, the people, the church, insert any adjective to describe the group, the collective, and you've entered into communism. You've entered into collectivism. And it is dangerous. Why is it dangerous? Is it dangerous because we don't care about others' well-beings? Of course not. It's dangerous because you individually get put on the altar of the people. That's why it's dangerous. It can be personally dangerous to your health, right? Not because there's not this utopic ideal that we want to achieve where we have an equal brotherhood of man and there's no poor and everybody's successful. Good luck, right?
Well, there's no room for the individual in those societies. There's
no room for the individual. Yeah. Or the individual becomes the illusion. What's the ideal man, the ideal citizen, the ideal comrade, the ideal member, right? Whatever it is you're going to go for. And that ideal can never be lived up to. Keep in mind, when we're talking about human nature, it is within human nature to kill their own God. Okay. So this has happened many times. And on behalf of who? The collective. How dare you challenge the tribe? How dare you challenge the government or whatever it is, right? The other. So we want to be very leery of collectivism, and we label it as such, and we understand it as such, because again, as a peasant, as an individual who just has to live here, no matter who's in charge, right? We grew up here. We just want to live here. Wherever you're listening to this, you're a peasant, right? You are just a part of the cog in nature and in your community and stuff like that. But you individually have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in whatever that means for you. You have the right to private property. You have the right to self-betterment. You have the right to equity, but not equality. There's a difference there, okay? Yeah. And I wish people would not misuse the word equity. But nonetheless, collectivism and communism and socialism, it flies in the face of that, and it is dangerous. Donald Trump emphasized that this weekend.
It really topped everything by a lot today, yeah.
Mr. President, Zoran Mamdani said in an interview this week that he was open to being the poster child for socialist candidates. Are you worried about more socialist candidates across the United States?
I think it's a big threat to our nation, actually, because it's not socialism, it's really communism. They use the word social democrat because it sounds so nice, but it's really communism you're talking about. I think it's the biggest threat to our nation there is, maybe since our founding. That includes World War I, World War II, September 11th. It includes the Pearl Harbor attack. I think this is the biggest threat to our nation. People will smile when I say that, but the smart people are going to say, you know, he's probably right. It's basically introducing communism into the United States of America. There's never been anything so dangerous. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Introducing communism into the United States of America is more dangerous than World War I, World War II, and 9/11 combined, really.
I like being smart, and I think he probably is right.
Yeah. The smart people are going, yeah, no, he's probably right. You know, and it just goes all the way back to the days of, I think, George Washington, who said, you know, all of Europe's armies couldn't drink of the Mississippi. It might have been Abraham Lincoln who said that, right? And he's not wrong. The threat to America is not from the outside, it's from the inside. And how has America been degraded by foreign actors? It's by infiltrating the inside of our political process with what? Collectivists, communists, people who will destroy you in the name of a utopia that will never be achieved. That is the nature of what they do. And in the process to do that, to get control over your hearts and your minds, you have to have a boogeyman. Right. And the current boogeyman of the day has been climate change. You know, how many virgins do we have to throw into the volcano to get the volcano not to erupt?
I don't know.
You know
Ask Al Gore.
I mean, how many nuclear power plants do we need to get rid of? Or how many dams do we have to destroy? Can we please go back to the Stone Age? Will that stop the oceans from rising? I got news for you. There's nothing you're going to do that's going to stop the oceans from rising or not rising. So anyways, but it's that collectivism. Now, I have said this many, many times. If you listen to a Bernie Sanders speech and you listen to a Donald Trump speech, you'll find that the talking points are much the same. The problems we describe in America are pretty much the same problems we all experience. However, the solutions that get offered to them cannot be more different. You have a more conservative solution through Donald Trump, who's still into government power and all that fun stuff. Then you have the more socialist communist solution that you hear through Bernie Sanders, which is essentially We'll just take from the people who have and give it to the people who have not until they're the ones who have, and then take it from them and give it back to the old rich people that we impoverish.
It's a great Ponzi scheme.
It's great. It's great. So keep it up. So here's Bernie Sanders saying democratic socialism, it's on the rise.
So let me give you the good news. The good news is that last night in New York City, progressives won 3 congressional seats. They beat incumbents. People in New York City are saying they're sick and tired of status quo politics. They want a government that represents everybody and not just the billionaire class. And actually what happened in New York City took place after we have won major victories in New Jersey, California, Montana, and elsewhere. So what is going on all over this country is progressives are on the march. And I was just before I left the office, I saw Fox Television and their headlines, "The end of the world is coming. Progressives are winning elections. Socialism is taking over the world." Real panic. So let me give you the good news.
There should be real panic. You guys killed 100 million people in the last century. We should be terrified. Yeah. Again, these buzzwords, progressivism, socialism, democratic socialism, or democratic socialists, these are just buzzwords for the same thing. At its core, it's collectivism. It's been tried by many different names, and some of them even religious names, right? It's the United Order. It's we're just going to all throw our lot in together and see if we survive. It's just not how the world works. Hakeem Jeffries blames Donald Trump himself for the communist takeover.
Okay.
Because what we're going to find here is the Democrat Party itself is a little divided on this issue of communism. There's a lot of Democrats who are suddenly waking up going, when did the crazies take over the party? Like, I know we like social liberalism, and I know we like the LGBT stuff, and I know we like the, you know, dude, Seattle this weekend had their Pride Parade, and they had like nudes, like nude men on bicycles. And all I can think of when I'm watching this is just utter degeneracy, just total degeneracy, right? So you've got this wing of the Democrat Party that's totally cool with degeneracy. And then one day they're waking up going, all right, I'm cool with the degeneracy, but I really like my wood stove, and I really want my natural gas stove.
It does feel like the Democrat Party is getting so crazy that they are fracturing apart.
They are absolutely fracturing. So even Hakeem Jeffries blamed the rise on the communists in his own party on Donald Trump, because if there's one thing that unites the communists with the Democrats, it's at this point pretty much exclusively their
delusional TDS.
Expectations for tomorrow's races in Colorado, particularly CD1 with Diana DeGette. Do you believe she's capable of winning? And what does it say that her race is very close in terms of, you know, this challenge against incumbents by Democratic Socialists?
It's a close race, and we'll see what happens. Ultimately, it'll be in the hands of the people of Denver. But the reality is we have an unsettled electoral environment, which is going to be the case when Donald Trump is president.
Okay, so as long as Donald Trump is president, there's going to be violence in the streets.
Okay. All right.
It's going to be an unsettled environment, aka you don't know who's batting for who now, right? That's kind of what I hear there. President Trump continues this weekend. He gave a press conference. It was a really good speech. Unfortunately, we're not going to listen to too much of it, but he talked about defending our values across the globe, and especially here close to home. And again, communism is on the march. And he says we have got to stop it, right? It's our biggest threat.
We have a country that's just the hottest. It just is so hot. And I'm working really hard to make it even better. We're going to get rid of some of the flaws. We're going to make it even better. But the biggest thing we have to do is we have to stop this horrible thread of cancer that's permeating our country called communism. We have to stop it because that's what it's about. That's what they want to do quietly. And we ask that God will continue to bless the United States of America, and God will bless the United States of America because
he called it a cancer. He put a Truth Social post out this weekend saying it's the greatest threat to America in his lifetime, and the communists are on the move. They're making their big move. When I read that from Donald Trump, I'm like, you know, sometimes he does post just some bluster and some trolling, but when he says the communists are making their big move. He had another post where he mentioned communists always resort to assassination.
Oh,
right.
geez.
And I thought this is really interesting. Donald Trump is coming out really hard against this communist branch of the Democrat Party. And I think the hope here is when it comes to the elections, that there might actually be hope that we might pull over a lot, not a small number, but a lot of these blue dog Democrats that are looking at their own party and they're going, I am not down with Zoran Mandami or Katie Wilson in Seattle. I mean, I'm a Democrat. I like unions, but I don't like this flavor of what we're doing over here. Right. Is there another pro-union candidate? And you know what? When you look over on the MAGA side of things, if you're in a blue state, you're almost certainly going to find pro-union Republicans.
Yeah.
In fact, our secretary of, I can't remember now, Small Business Associates, that's Kelly Loeffler. I can't remember, but they picked the representative out of Oregon that's like a Republican, but is like as blue as they get when it comes to union issues and stuff like that. And it was a critical pick. But again, listen, if you're a blue dog Democrat, she's doing wonders for the unions right now. Good stuff. Joe Manchin weighed in on this. He was on a Fox News show and he said, listen, some of the people in the Democrat Party, I can't even associate with them. And it gets even worse. You're going to hear a clip from James Carville saying the same thing.
Just tell you that 47% of the people identify themselves as independents. They have to take, and all of you on your shows talk about independence because independence is where you win or lose elections.
But 62% of Democrats say they prefer socialism over capitalism.
If they do, then by God, there's not a Democratic Party left. That's crazy. That is crazy.
It's true.
That is absolutely insane.
It's not a box poll.
If you want to ask me, well, that's another reason why I'm not registered as a Democrat. I can't put up with that crazy shit. That's nuts. And I've told them, you believe that the government should take care of you, and you don't want to get up at your, I was asked by Elizabeth Warren, what's happened to the West Virginia Democrats? Why we lose all the union? I said, you've lost the union workers, you lost the working people of America because they believe the Democratic Party in Washington spends more time, effort, and resources on able-bodied, capable people that don't work or won't work than those that still are working, trying to make a living. That's it in a nutshell. I can't give it to you any plainer than that.
It is that simple, Ron. It is that simple.
That was on Fox News.
I know. And Joe Manchin's always the dog whistle to the independents and stuff like that, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure some of this stuff out. And it's interesting how people figure it out. So recently we had an increase in our electrical bill. Okay. Increase in electrical bill. So wife calls up the electrical company. So this is communism in action, the collectivism in action. Okay. So the objective here is to charge more money, right? It's to get more money. So where that money is fungible, which means $1 here and $1 there are the same. And as long as they're in my name, I can spend this dollar that was earmarked for something else, replace it. I can rob Peter to pay Paul on my balance sheet all I want. Okay, because it's fungible. Money's fungible. By the way, guys, we still are pimping for chat. So if you haven't chatted this month, please get in the chats on Rumble and make a chat. So anyways, money is fungible. And so where was I going with this? Oh, electrical bill. So my wife calls up the electrical company because she's like, hey, the electrical bill went up. Is there something we can do about it? And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, there's been a rate increase. But here, listen, if you fill out this paperwork, you might qualify for a subsidy. Because low income people get a subsidy. Sure. She's like, I don't want to fill out paperwork. I just want to pay my electrical bill. So the scam in Washington state right now is if you're at certain income thresholds, you can get a subsidy to your electrical payment. Where does that subsidy come from? Presumably from taxing the rich or overcharging the rich on their average services. So if you're too high of income, you don't get a discount on your electrical. You pay full fee. And whatever extra fees you're paying, I'm assuming some of that money gets put into a subsidy for lower income people. Okay. Now, I don't know that that's the case. For all I know, that subsidy is coming from some Green New Deal scam money. Yeah. But either way, they've set up a system where everybody pays more. But if you're poor, you can get a subsidy and pay less. So it's like that's communism in practice. You start applying that across every sector. Oh, you want a building permit? Oh, okay. Well, you pay full freight, but you're low income. Well, you're going to get a discount. And where's it coming from? The extra that we're charging the guy that makes too much money. Now, you might be sitting thinking, well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is it destroys civilizations. That's what's wrong with it. It's not wrong because grandpa wants to subsidize a grandkid into college or something like that.
It's not
this
the
isn't
same
charity.
thing. It's not the same thing as coupons you sell. You're using at the store.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's not coupons. It's don't just take it off the top. This is subsidizing it with someone else's payment.
Yes.
It destroys societies. Well, it might sound like a good thing if you're low income. And hey, listen, I've been low income, right?
Well, sure. And also, hey, who are you to not let these low income guys get a price break, a-hole? It's
like, they might not need a price break if you didn't raise the prices in the first place. Why is my wife making the phone call anyways? Right. And so that's the problem. Communism never plays out well. Okay. It's always rooted in a utopian future that we can never actually achieve, because by the time you get there, the people who were tasked with building it, your technocrats, oligarchs, the smartest we have been completely replaced with the former class that was broke or poor or whatever the case is, and have no concept on how to actually build a civilization. So it is really tough. Even James Carville recognizes this, that the Democrat Party, and this is James Carville talking, he doesn't recognize anymore.
Mr. Valiant, the New York Times reported, and I have the quote right here, I'll get to it. She is against passed off all her views. She has attacked interracial relationships in the American flag. Lady, I ain't in the same party as you. I'm sorry. I just not. And I actually do think it's time for Democrats to talk the S word, schism. I really do. And everybody's always said, no, we're coalition, we're big tent. And there's just some shit that I can't be in the same tent with. And we talk about what Madame was 3 for 3 last night in Manhattan. Right, they call it the Commie Corridor. Fine. Jason Crow's service pack, vote bets, 10 for 11. You wouldn't know Jason Crow exists. Okay,
no, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know Abel Sandberg exists. You wouldn't know. And I want to be very specific. I understand the free press for being here, because if they nominated David Duke or something like that, we'd be the same way. I understand all that. To the extent I understand the Times, because they are the New York Times, so they have to cover. They are the hometown newspaper. But the idea that we must neglect everything else that's going on, all of these other primaries, all the recruits Jason has, all huge, phenomenal successes we've had, and declare that the party is now under the control of the Democratic Socialists of New York City is insane. But understand, these people...
So listen to what he's saying there. This is Democrats talking to Democrats.
Yeah.
And what he's saying is, all across the country, we had a good Democrat run, 10 out of 11 with someone else. But Mandami up in the Commie Corridor got 3 people elected, and all of a sudden, the entire Democrat Party is under the control of the communists in New York. Do you hear what he's saying? Okay. When we talk about the liberal media or the legacy media, it's bigger than both parties. It's bigger than both parties. The Democrat Party is expressing, through the mouthpiece of James Carville right now, frustration that the party, the traditional Clintonista, blue dog Democrats, is not being represented in the media. Interesting. What is MAGA's complaint? That the normal, everyday, oil rig worker like Pony Boy, okay, is not being represented by the media.
Maybe there should be a red-blue alliance instead of a red-green alliance.
Or we should just focus on the peasants. Because at the end of the day, we're all the same. But he's saying, listen, there's a schism. We got to start talking about a schism.
Yeah.
Oh, the Democrat Party's like on the verge of a breakup.
Do not like Democrats. Not only are they not Democrats, they wish Democrats poorly. So I just cannot. Maybe there's a way that you can say to, I guess Mandami is the leader of it, is, you insist that, try to insist that the people that run into your banner run into the Democratic Socialists and don't use the Democratic Party as your guideline, and let's negotiate the terms of a schism here. Maybe we can part under some kind of advantageous terms for both of us. But I'm done. I'm not in that fucking political party. I am totally comfortable in a political party that spends time questioning the policies of the government of Israel. In fact, I'm enthusiastic about that. I don't want to be in a political party that denies the right of the state of Israel to exist. That's just not, I just can't do that. I'm sorry. It's just not doable.
There's a line crossed there, right? It's one thing to question policies. It's another thing to be like, yeah, just wipe them off the map. I don't like their policies. Because that's what communism does. Tiff Time in the chat says, how do y'all, great to have you. I don't know if you've chatted already this month, but we're still pimping for chats. So until I see a name that I absolutely know I haven't seen before, ever, I'm going to keep mentioning it. We do need one more chatter on Rumble to make the goal for this month is what it is.
How devastating do you think a schism in the Democratic Party would be? Because it seems like even if they split in like 2/3, 1/3, I mean, if you start out with 80 some million voters, you should have plenty left over, right?
So, so here's the thing. If there was a legitimate schism, let's say only 10% went to the far left, it would force the remaining Democrats at their 35-40% majority, minority. It would force them to probably work with the Republicans. It would probably, and it would, unfortunately, the product of this was it would probably expand the uniparty because it would be the middle of the ground rhinos that would want to work with them, right? So it's kind of like it might expand the uniparty to be something pretty big. But MAGA went through this. There was a schism in the Republican Party between MAGA and the existing legacy Republican Party. And the MAGA part of the Republican Party is like 85% pretty solid, maybe 90% pretty solid. So there was a schism. Anybody that was going to wash out the Masseys, the Justin Amashas, the Warshes of the world, they've washed out and gone to the, I'm an independent now that just wants you to vote for anybody but Trump. So Mike Johnson was being asked about the midterm elections. I'm uncertain, man. The Democrats are way behind in fundraising. I just showed you both Manchin and James Carville talking about a schism or a split in the party, and that you've got kind of two different. You've got these communists trying to run under the banner of Democrats, and now Democrats are like, hey, the communists have already made it in the back door.
I should have made a prediction about this a long time ago, but isn't it interesting how the Democrat Party is having such a hard time raising funds at the same time that NGOs are on the downslide?
I know.
Isn't it wild?
I know. You get rid of USAID, funding drops. You bring to light their smurfing and foreign donations, funding drops. You bring to light just the general Democrat fraud, funding drops. And now they're out there like, I mean, they're dead, man. Like,
where's the money, man?
This is a party on life support. It's running on inertia. It's running on inertia. Mike Johnson says he's in the protection business. His job is to protect Republican incumbents from losing their seats. And he's expressing some confidence over the midterms. But if these communists get in charge, this is still a real threat, especially after the Supreme Court decision this weekend, which we'll talk about in just a moment. This is still a real threat. If the communists get in charge, everybody's a target.
Say, I am on the ballot, because in a real sense, he is. If we were to lose the midterms, heaven forbid, these Democrats, y'all, impeachment's not even the big concern. They will turn every committee of Congress into an investigative body, and they'll go after the president's family, the cabinet, his donors and friends. Half of you in this room will be targeted. I run the protection program. I'll take care of you. Okay. We're going to win. We're going to win the midterm. Okay. All right. I'll leave you to say, I am on the ballot.
I hope so. I feel like it's like a little Mickey Mouse. We're going to win the midterms. It's like, okay.
It sounded to me a little mafioso. It's like, we're going to protect you.
We have the machines now.
Yeah.
We know how to get the ballots. Maybe that's what they're doing.
Okay.
Oh, talked to a gentleman this weekend. I was getting a well thing scheduled for a property I'm working on. Yeah. And the gentleman was like, hey, I'm a Trump voter, but I'm a little disenchanted with what's going on with the administration. Okay. I'm like, where's this coming from? It's like, where it's always coming from? It's always coming from the war in Iran. If there's one thing that has united the MAGA coalition, it's been a general distaste for endless wars and constant military spending. And unfortunately, the one war that we should have had 20 years ago probably should have been with Iran. We probably could have stayed out of Iraq, probably could have stayed out of Afghanistan, but Iran was the one that we really needed to go to. And obviously there's the big conspiracy that, 7 countries in 5 years and Iran's at the top of the list, and we've been supposed to target them for a long time. Well, of course, dingbats. Of course, they're at the top of the list. They're the hardest one to get to, and they're the one that needs to go first. But unfortunately, our former political leaders went for the low-hanging fruit first, right? The Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and created just a tinderbox in the Middle East that already was. Hardly ever rains over there. It's just a big. So anyways, this war in Iran came to a kind of rough conclusion last week. We got a memorandum of understanding saying the strait's open, which hundreds of vessels have gone through the strait. And we know it's working because the price, the cost of a barrel of oil is down to $68 a barrel.
Whoa.
So yeah, we're back down to like normal prices now. But nonetheless, there was some shooting over the weekend, right? Iran attacked a couple places around the Middle East.
Boy.
And so the United States attacked back. And now today they're going to meet again in Doha and continue to talk about the memorandum of understanding and the violation of the ceasefire the day that the paper was signed.
High-level talks will take place today in Doha, Qatar, aimed at advancing the memorandum of understanding between the United States and Iran. Special envoys Kushner and Witkoff will be in attendance and are expected to meet directly with the Qatari prime minister, according to a diplomat familiar with the talks. Technical talks about the MOU are then scheduled to take place on Wednesday.
The meeting in Doha is going to be perhaps important, perhaps not. We're going to find out. But we're winning militarily. It's almost won militarily, I would say. And it's really very simple. It's the denuclearization of Iran. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon, and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that, in all fairness.
Iranian officials have indicated that no direct talks will take place between the United States and Iran while in Doha, but did confirm a delegation will be traveling to Qatar. The 60-day window is meant to iron out the details of Iran's nuclear program and keep the Strait of Hormuz open. President Trump has indicated he reserves both military and diplomatic options after that time period. Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian, posted to X saying Iran will fulfill its commitments to the MOU. He did not mention Iranian attacks on the Strait of Hormuz that took place late last week and over the weekend. We're also tracking developments here in Israel, where Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz spoke to reporters yesterday. He indicated the IDF has been instructed to prepare an independent Israeli operation against Iran and remains on alert. Katz said that Israel would strike Iran with force if more missiles are launched by Iran. The bottom line here, the ceasefire is holding once again as these parallel diplomatic tracks play out, but certainly militaries across the region remain on alert.
All right. So technically we have a memorandum of understanding for a ceasefire, but we're still firing and Israel's about to unleash on Iran. So, sounds like things are going great up there.
Yeah, wonderful.
It is the one weak link in everything that Donald Trump is doing right now. It's the stuff over in Iran. And not everybody has a high-level peasants understanding like we do, understanding that Iran is a real target, 47 years of war against us, funding terrorist proxies around the world, really, not just in the Middle East, interfering in our elections, being an off-books balance sheet for the global banking cartels. All of these things had to be addressed. And it's incredibly important that we deal with Iran. But unfortunately, there's always political capital being spent. That's one of the, if you want to call it a weakness, it's one of the weaknesses of our system is the political process, right? What do we got, Ron? We got a little ad for us?
Yes, we do.
Trinova Health.
Yes, it is Trinova. Access Med, powered by Trinova Health, is a revolutionary telehealth service that offers fast, free online evaluations and free home delivery of customized compounded medications, offering custom weight loss support, ivermectin therapy, hair restoration, cosmetic rejuvenation, custom ED treatments, and more. You can complete your visit in less than 10 minutes, and there's no subscriptions or recurring fees ever. We've made getting started easier than ever. Simply follow the link, choose the product or treatment you're interested in, and then complete the quick online evaluation. Within days, your custom meds will arrive to your door. Mention Rumble in the coupon code and get 10% off your first treatment. Pew!
I like 10% off. I like it a lot. So I'm watching the live feed right now because any minute we could be getting a decision out of POTUS on the literally in a minute we could be getting a decision out of POTUS on birthright citizenship, which would be awesome if they overturned it. But I think the general consensus is they're probably not. So there were a couple decisions that came out yesterday. One of them was the decision on late arriving mail-in ballots. So there's this case out of, I think it's Mississippi, that the the legislature was going to allow ballots to be counted up to 5 days after the election, as long as they were postmarked by election day.
Right.
Now, every state runs it a little bit different. Some states, all the elections, everything has to arrive by election day. But after COVID, it became very cool in America to allow late arriving ballots to be counted. You even get as extreme in California, where as long as there's a date written on the envelope, it doesn't have to be stamped on there by the post office, they'll count it. So they upheld this idea that you can count ballots after election day. Scott Miller was on with Laura Ingraham talking about the impact of this.
I think it was pretty clever how he handled this today about this case. He basically said, look, there are other great cases out there. We're going to talk about those with Jonathan Turley. But nevertheless, he was disappointed that his appointee to the court, Amy Coney Barrett, wrote that majority.
Well, look, let's just call it like it is. Justice Roberts and Justice Barrett decided to cave to the radical left. Alito was so clear in his wording about what election day means. Nobody could read the statute, could read that opinion, could read what Alito wrote and come to any other conclusion. It's election day, not election week, not election month, not election months. So this was really a travesty, and it underscores, Laura, why we have to keep fighting to pass the Save America Act. 80 million Americans elected a Republican Senate majority, and they elected a Republican Congress to deliver on this fundamental priority. It must get done, Laura.
Well, what is it? I think it was pretty clever how he...
So Amy Coney Barrett and Justice John Roberts sided with the liberals and said, hey, yeah, you can count ballots coming in after election day. And I agree with Stephen Miller. I read through the opinion and I was like, man, what? Sometimes these dissenting opinions by Alito and Clarence Thomas are just so powerful. It's like, why is this not the majority opinion? But of course, you've got 4 members of the court that are just always going to vote for whatever the liberal soup of the day is. And then you've got Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett, who are often referred to as the Chevy Chase Republicans, aka they really like to go to the cocktail parties in DC. And they oftentimes jump over and vote with the liberals. And sometimes their legal justification is very confusing. I think so, at least. Berasure. I was told I was supposed to step in and say hello. Caldwell High School's track, painting the field and track lines now, being a true peasant making honest money. Oh, hey, I know who that is.
Those are the favorites.
Great. I love it so much. Yes, trade your labor for wages. That is the way to do it. If you come over to 1776live.us, we'll even tell you how to interact with the IRS and let them know that those wages are not to be taxed. So come check us out over there. Okay, so here's Donald Trump reacting in the Oval Office to the announcement from the Supreme Court.
Because of the mail-in ballot ruling, which was a little bit surprising, gives people more time to vote illegally, let's say. But the SAVE Act is even more important, and that's the right. You have to be a citizen of our country. Okay, you have to show you're a citizen of our country, called citizenship. Voter ID by photo voter ID, and no mail-in ballots unless you're in the military, disabled, you're ill, or you're away, or even on a vacation. We're being very open about it. I think it was very detrimental to honest elections, but it is what it is. Basically, they're keeping it a little bit the way it is now. Important one, the Slaughter case, which we'll talk about if you ask that question. But the parliamentarian, what were you asking about?
Yeah, have you talked with Thune about?
I have. No, I can't imagine why you keep a woman that was put there by Harry Reid and Barack Hussein Obama. I cannot understand it. The leader has the right to fire the person at will and put somebody else there. That could be, because we get so many negative rulings from her, the parliamentarian. She's been there for years, and she was put there by Harry Reid and Barack Hussein Obama. Harry Reid was a bad guy, and he was the leader, and he put her. And the speaker has the right to immediately fire her and put somebody else there. And it's not even believable that she's still there. She's obviously a good politician or something.
So we absolutely
because of the mail-in
to this Supreme Court ruling allowing ballots to be counted late. The answer is the safe says the parliamentarian won't let it get any bills and the process. So the parliamentarian's there to make sure the Senate rules or the House rules are followed. And they're installed by Senate or House leadership. And it's just an appointment. It's just a job. They could be fired. But for whatever reason, the Senate Republicans have kept in place, and this included Mitch McConnell, Harry Reid's parliamentarian. It makes no sense, right? Oh, well, the parliamentarian says we can't do it. Then fire her. Okay? Make new rules. This is extremely important. I mean, this is like a huge blow to election integrity. Now, words, they're talking openly about maybe we need to discuss a schism. You go your way, we'll go ours. You be that unsuccessful third party that eventually gets ground into, sausage and run out of town. So on that hand, you've got that. You've got the lack of fundraising coming through Act Blue. You've got the redistricting, right? Because the Republicans have an advantage now in the redistricting game. And so all of this is good for Republicans. But, right, how do you go in and flip a solid blue district? How are you going to flip New Jersey? How are you going to flip some of the boroughs in New York? How are you going to flip Virginia? How are you going to flip Minnesota? Well, one of the ways you can do it is get control of these mail-in ballots. The post office was directed not to deliver ballots for states that are not sharing, which is just basically broke for recess. So we may not see a resolution to that particular case for a while, which means as of right now, my understanding is the courts have said to the post office, you got to deliver the ballots. Right. And Donald Trump and his administration has been very hesitant on going against a Supreme Court decision, although the Democrats have been talking openly about it. So here's Stephen Miller continuing on with Laura Ingraham talking
for the midterms, in your view, given the number of states that this affects.
Well, it could be potentially extremely damaging. In other words, if you have a situation, as we saw in California with Spencer Pratt in Los Angeles, where every single day ballots continue to tilt the election in ever more improbable and ultimately impossible ways, then we don't have a democracy. We have no faith in our election system. We have no faith in our ability to count the ballots.
But what did we hear from Hakeem Jeffries? It's just fairness in the elections. They would support these types of stuff, which is why the constituents, we the people, we want to know that the elections are secure. So we'd like to see the rules be fairly robust, transparent, things like that. But they don't want them to be. Why is that? Because then Trump would have a clear mandate. And the Democrats won't get on board with democracy as long as the Democrats are convinced that maybe Trump is cheating. And what have we seen the Democrats doing with regards to the midterms? We even heard Nancy Pelosi say that the Republicans might get into the machines and manipulate them. Something that was impossible to do just a year ago. Okay. I mean, they want us to have insecurity in the elections. And as Republicans, we've already been living in this world of like, Joe Biden's not a legitimate president. Hello. Okay. So it's very destabilizing to the system. And when you've got guys that are on the Republican side, like Tom Tillis, which this man, every time he talks, I'm just like, it's like another cyanide capsule, please. But Tom Tillis is telling us the quiet part out loud. It's the Republicans who are blocking this, right? The Republicans have the tools. They could get rid of the parliamentarian. They could filibuster. They could do any number of things. But as Tom Tillis says, at the end of the day, when you get right down to brass tacks, we don't have the votes.
What's your objection with the Save America Act?
It's quite simple. It's a math problem. We simply don't have the votes, and the Save America Act will not be implemented in time for this election. Anybody that knows anything about election law understands that. And the reason I do is I passed voter ID when I was Speaker of the House. And if anybody thinks that you're going to implement something as expansive as the SAVE Act in 2 months, see, everybody's talking about November, right? Okay, that's 5 months away. But people will be doing some early voting. People will have to deal with registrations. Does any rational person who's ever had peace in time for this election and not be disruptive? And incidentally, it's an unfunded mandate that has $0 for implementation. So I would ask anybody who actually understands how to pass laws, implement them, and have them in place at the level that they need to be to ensure the integrity of elections, how absurd is it to think that can be done by November?
And that's why we wanted you to start on January 21st of 2020. It's a problem. That's why we've been complaining that the Senate is just trying to run out the clock. They're showing us by their deeds and their actions that that is their intention. Just run out the clock. We don't have the votes. So you haven't had the votes this whole time. We've had primaries. We've had a chance to come after these politicians, but you kept your cards close to the vest. And now that you can't do anything, we don't have the votes. And it's the same players. It's the McConnell, it's Tillis, it's Murkowski and Collins that don't want to vote for it. Right? Same people. So there was another decision that came out. Hey, we're still pimping for chats, by the way. Berasia, I'm pretty sure you are fresh this month. So you probably did it for us. But nonetheless, let's go above and beyond. Above and beyond. Above and beyond. There's like a half a second delay into our ears.
Yeah.
And I heard that come back at me and I was like, wow, that was bad. Above and beyond. Above and beyond. Another decision came in yesterday, and this one actually is a really big one. Guess what? The president is now 100 times more powerful than the last president.
That had to do with a case by the name of a woman, Rebecca Slaughter. And the question was whether or not the president had the power to take independent federal agencies, the heads of those agencies, off of their job without cause. Professor, it sounds like there's a bit of a contradiction the way I'm reading it. Go ahead and clarify it. Lisa Cook can keep her job, but others like Rebecca Slaughter cannot.
Well, at issue in this case, obviously I've not read the opinions as it just came out, but at issue in the case was a rather old and established precedent called Humphrey's Executor. And in that decision, the Supreme Court said that Congress could create a type of hybrid creature within the executive branch, could create a commission that the president cannot dictate who are members of, can remove those members. It barred that. It said that, in fact, Congress could create one that insulated the members from a sitting president. That has always been controversial because many scholars and many judges have said, look, you don't see any of that in the Constitution. There's no hybrid animals. There's no legislative branch, an executive branch, a judicial branch. So if they ruled against Slaughter and in favor of the administration, that would be a significant increase in executive power. And in combination with the immigration cases that were just handed down, it would be a particularly good week or so for the administration. This was a bit of a surprise we just saw in that Election Day decision. That was 5-4. It was a real Burma shave. But it came out against the GOP. This one would be actually very welcome news, even if Humphrey's executor were to survive for the administration.
It looks like Humphrey's executor is overruled, but let's get to Shannon Bream. She's been taking a look at this. And you have, in particular, Shannon, you're looking at the FTC case, which seems to have been a win for the Trump administration.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it says to discharge the duties of his trust from the majority opinion, the president must have the assistance of officers he can trust. So this is this idea of him wanting people that will agree with the agenda that he has as the executive. It says it's up to the Senate to decide whether to confirm those with whom the president would prefer to work, but neither Congress nor the courts may saddle him with those with whom he cannot work. And remember, this FTC commissioner, basically the message he sent to her was, you don't line up with the administration and my agenda and what I'm going to do. And he is, as the head of the executive branch, over a lot of these executive agencies and thought. So the question gets to whether or not this applies to different agencies. We know in the Cook decision, which was about a federal governor on the board, that was a situation in which they want the Fed to have its own independence. They think that's critical. Oh, here we have it. Thank you very much, Andrew. So we have the Cook decision. But I will tell you, in the Slaughter decision, we have a dissent from Justice Sotomayor where she says this. She says the court discards a democratic regime in favor of one that distorts the structure of government to fit the majority's theory of unitary total executive control. The president emerges with far greater power than before. That's on the FTC decision where the court has said they can dismiss. The Cook
So we've got kind of a weird set of decisions here to come together as a package.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, they overruled the Humphrey's executor, which this is just another example of right when communism hit America during the Great Depression, hit it hard. They created Humphrey's executor. And guess what? The president, the executive leader, the commander in chief, the sole executive who should be able to fire at will anybody in the executive branch, couldn't do that.
Huh.
And this is classic play from the communists. Put people in the administration, in the executive branch, vested with authority of the executive branch, but unaccountable to it. That's a problem. And that's been the modus operandi for all these years since that decision. They just overturned it, which means the president, for the first time in about 100 years, can fire anyone in the executive branch at will without cause. They work for him, which by default means they work for we, the people.
Wow. I always thought that was a thing.
Yeah. But no, that is how you end up with people, the deep state, who last president after president. Even if somebody in the deep state gets caught doing something absolutely horrible, okay, absolutely horrible, leaking, doing some other stuff, as long as they have some of their legal I's and T's crossed, they continue to draw a paycheck, they get sidelined. The new administration comes in who's not hostile to that political ideology, and they reinstate them, oftentimes in positions of power and authority. It happens all the time. But one of the unique things about this decision that came out was there was the Lisa Cook firing. Who's Lisa Cook? Lisa Cook is on the board of governors for the Federal Reserve. She clearly, allegedly, based on all the information we have, committed mortgage fraud. Bill Pulte put out that he's still confident that she'll be prosecuted for mortgage fraud. And the president fired her. And however, lawsuits ensued. Abe Lowell came to the rescue, Hunter Biden's sugar daddy, and they got that injunction. They got that state. So this Supreme Court decision basically said, well, you can fire anybody in the executive branch except for this gal at the Supreme Court or at the Federal Reserve. We're going to send that back down to the lower courts for adjudication first. So think about that for a second. The people who control the money, who are ultimately appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate, he can't fire. What does that tell you about the banking system? It is not in our control. It is not in our control. This Supreme Court case, which gives the president the ability to fire all kinds of deep state actors, still does not extend to the ability to fire the people that print your money, to fire the people that hold more control over your day-to-day life than the president himself, right? This is a classic example and reason why you've got to get off the dollar.
This is really wild, but also what's even more wild is that this is exposing it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this is a problem because, again, you talk about the Democrat Party having a schism. There are members of the Democrat Party who we would normally consider as kind of middle of the ground. Like when I think of Kristen Gillibrand, for example, up in New York, I don't think hardcore communist. I think mom was a member of the Nexium sex cult. I think you got a bunch of weird family connections, but I don't necessarily think you're a communist. But she's thrown her lot in with them. She thinks the rise of communism, socialism around the country is a good thing.
Fidel Vargas, President CEO, HSF. What is your explanation for what happened in New York with the primaries and especially those in New York City? How are you taking that to heart as a senator from New York, as the head of the senatorial campaign, and as a member of the Democratic Party?
Yes. So New York had a very strong change election. There was a huge interest in new candidates, younger candidates in some instances, the next generation of candidates. And so there was several instances where incumbents lost to challengers because of that trend. And that trend is a very good trend for nationwide elections because it shows how deep the interest in change is and how fired up new voters are, younger voters are, different demographics of voters.
The new youngers, the different demographics, the communists. This is a good thing. This is great for the party. It's rejuvenating. I don't know about that. So Trump can fire people in the executive branch. He cannot fire someone at the Federal Reserve. That still has to go on and continue its adjudication process, which begs the question, have we reached a point where the communists are that deep into the system that they're actually sitting on the board of governors?
It feels like it.
Or they're getting protection from the communists or whatever the deep state is. Now, the good news is in light of that decision by the Supreme Court, there will be more moves like this on the horizon, I believe. Because remember, they did want to fire a lot of people, and they really got hamstrung in 2025 by the courts that they couldn't fire all these people, and these cases had to work through. Well, now the gloves are off. Now, I mean, we could wake up tomorrow and there could be thousands upon thousands of executive employees that are fired. Kash Patel got started early with this and fired 10 members of the, quote, deep state, the FBI, that were directly involved in the warrants against Donald Trump.
FBI Director Kash Patel out with an allegation that the prior FBI obtained his phone records, and not only his. What can you tell us about that?
Right. This has been breaking in the last hour or so. We are told that, according to Kash Patel, the FBI director, the prior bureau leadership obtained his phone records and phone records to current White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles back in 2022 and 2023. This eventually led into the Jack Smith special counsel investigation into then former President Donald Trump. We're told that some of these records are just toll records, which don't have specific information other than times and dates. They don't have the actual content of calls. But two sources in the FBI say that Susie Wiles' attorney agreed to be recorded by FBI agents in 2023. She did not agree. We've reached out to her for comment. FBI Director Patel, in a statement to Fox News, calls this outrageous and deeply disturbing. And I will add, Brett, that we are told at least 10 Bureau employees have been fired just today over this incident, with more potentially to come.
And the more, now that this decision is through, could be significant. And there's another development too when it comes to warrantless searches on phones and, illegal communications. One of the other decisions that came out from the Supreme Court yesterday was the decision on the Fourth Amendment, and this deals with geofence warrants. So the FBI, and this is obviously something that's sensitive to me as a January 6er, the FBI used the largest ever warrant in the history of the world as a geofence warrant on January 6th to identify everybody that was in the vicinity of the U.S. Capitol. And so this case came in, and they basically said that what happens is, like, say there's a crime scene. What the cops will do is they'll go create a geofence. They'll create an area around the crime scene, and they'll go to the phone companies, and they'll say, we want everybody that came in or out of this geofence area in the last 30 minutes prior and 30 minutes after this crime occurred. Excellent tool. Right. Yeah. The problem is, say this is on a busy street in New York, that geofence area might have hundreds of people that get caught up into it, which means those hundreds of people who have no crime that they've been alleged to have committed, their private data, their cell phone data is now in the hands of the government, which once it's there, they can kind of do anything they want with it. It shows up at other places, and it's just a general invasion of our privacy. And that is what the Supreme Court determined. It determined that you have a right to privacy with your data, the data that your cell phone is collecting, that if the government wants that data, they have to get a warrant first if they're going to use it for law enforcement purposes. To me, this is a good thing. You're going to hear an outcry from all types of different people that are pro law and order saying this hamstrings the cops. And I constantly have to remind myself as a peasant, it hamstrings you, but because you have lost our trust, we have proven that you will go after normal, everyday American citizens who are just trying to go about their business, pursuing life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right. This is just a check.
We have to put a check on this power. So yes, some criminal somewhere might go away, but we've got to move more and more to I'd rather 10 guilty people go free than one innocent man go to prison. That's how our system is supposed to be. The way it operates is 10 innocent men go to prison, just to make sure the one guilty man doesn't get out scot-free, right? That's the way the system operates. So this kind of tilts the favor back towards the people, the free and living people of this country. HL Young 22 showed up late listening to you on YouTube, the other garbage platform. That's right. Screw you. But one that comes in with no internet. I hope this helps with your monthly goals. Yes, it does.
Yes.
Thank you so much, HL Young 22. We needed the chat. Are you going to send them off on a raid before we get even done here? All right, we're going to try to do a double raid. So we're going to send you on a raid. You don't have to go. That's the secret. You don't have to go. But if you do, please come right back. Go ahead, Ron. Hit the button. Okay, we hit a raid. So you guys are going on a raid. Don't leave. Come right back.
Man, our numbers went up. We should raid more.
Raid more. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is Steve Bannon. Now that Polte is over at the ODNI, there have been rumors that he's fired 50 people, 100 people, but thousands of people might get fired. Hopefully, there's a lot of people that are fired. And now with the Supreme Court decision, there shouldn't be anything holding them back. And Steve Bannon emphasizes this might be the most important thing. The concern here is that Bill Polte doesn't know who he's dealing with, and that the advisors that are being left behind by Tulsi Gabbard and that are being sent over by the CIA are essentially going to have him get rid of all the checks and balances against the CIA and basically bring ODNI into CIA's sphere of influence. That's the concern.
Back to Polte. This is why they're in complete meltdown at Polte. And just to frame this, so I think it would be helpful to the War Room Posse to understand this, is that there's been a big effort to downsize DNI driven by the CIA and driven by Tom Cotton and these guys. So when you see Tom Cotton and Lindsey Graham talking about this,
This is not to go after the deep state. This is to downsize DNI from its administrative or supervisory function over the intelligence community to what I call CIA supremacism. They want the CIA to be supreme in all things when it comes to intelligence. They don't want to take the deep state apart. They want to power the deep state. And of course, right there, you saw McCabe, who I can't figure out for the life of me how he's not under investigation and already charged with crimes. The former Comey's right-hand man at FBI. This is where I think you may have an overburdened DOJ. You obviously got this grand jury nullification. It's very hard to do anything in Washington, D.C. because how politicized it is and how insane it is even to bring a grand jury, much less go to trial. But Pulte is there for twofold. Number one, it's to take on the deep state. So when you see him making these changes, I would say it's already been pretty well thought through. It's the reason he's going as acting for the commander in chief, the president of the United States, that have very specific ideas about what DNI should do. It is not to turn over the oversight and supervision and basically make the CIA supreme over all the intelligence apparatuses. President Trump would never do that because he understands the beating heart of the deep state is the CIA. With this, what I call fetish, but with this concept and process of how they get everybody's consensus to buy in on these different agents. They call the interagency process. That is all run by CIA operatives in the different departments, whether they are at Department of War or they're at the Department of Homeland Security. They are embeds in there. This is how the CIA runs the deal. President Trump is not downsizing DNI to make the CIA more powerful. So they're not just taking out the seconded people and sending them back, although that is definitely an option. They're going to be doing a lot of that. That's what we did in the first administration with the National Security Council. They had so many people seconded from these other departments at the National Security Council. Most of them were deep state operatives. Bill Pulte, I think, and these guys have a pretty good idea of what they're trying to do in taking the deep state, and they're not stopping. They're relentless. Things are happening today. We'll be able to talk about it tomorrow. But John Solomon's been over there on declassification. Bill Pulte's there. They hate it. The media hates it. The mouthpiece and the propaganda departments for the deep state, the same people that are acting as harpies on all this. You see here the same people in the Russia collusion, the same thing of people that covered for Biden. One thing you didn't see in any of those clips, because it didn't exist, we tried to pull it. Not one comment on MSNBC, CNN about the report Tulsi Gabbard dropped on Fauci on the way out. We spent this morning to talk about the
Of course there wasn't anything on Fauci. They're in on it. They're in on it. They've got liability. Yeah. All right, so Pulte is over there to knock boots around and make things happen. And Ron, we got it. We got the big decision. SCOTUS alert. What? We've got the decision on birthright citizenship. Yes. So if you haven't already heard, if you're listening later in the day, if you're listening live, unless you're actually scrolling the news right now, you're missing this. But this is a breaking Fox News alert. I haven't even listened to it. Let's listen to it together.
And it's a big one. It has to do with birthright citizenship. It was an executive order that President Trump, on day one of his second term in January 2025, signed the executive order. It was immediately challenged. And now we can tell you that the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled against President Trump's order to limit birthright citizenship. Shannon, we have talked for some time about the president feeling that he would not win on this one. The question is, why not?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right off the bat, it says children born in the United States to parents unlawfully or temporarily present are, quote, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and are citizens at birth under the 14th Amendment's Citizenship Clause. Let's look how this broke down. As we expected, the Chief Justice wrote this opinion. Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, Barrett, and Jackson joined. Jackson has a concurring opinion in which Sotomayor joins. Justice Kavanaugh files an opinion concurring in the judgment and dissenting in part. The dissent comes from Justice Thomas. He is joined by Gorsuch, Alito, and then Justice Gorsuch apparently has his own dissenting opinion. So it is what we expected after the arguments here. And it looks like a bit of a split, but enough of a plurality coming together to say that the executive order that the president issued very quickly upon taking office is no good. And that if people are here, subject to the jurisdiction thereof includes people who are here illegally. The writing for the majority, Chief Justice Roberts says this: citizenship then and now was the right to have rights to freely participate in our political community. Talking about the 14th Amendment, the framers of the 14th Amendment extended that promise to every freeborn person in this land. That's a quote, and it looks like it's a quote back to some of the legislative debate about this in Congress. He says we keep that promise today.
So this is something that I'm very conflicted on, because when we talk about the nation of the United States, the political association, that is a voluntary association, and you voluntarily become a citizen for certain purposes, because citizen is a title. It is a label, right? So when you're a citizen, they're not all the same. An Amish citizen is not the same as you, Ron, right? You're registered for the draft. They're not.
Right. They selective service participation.
Yes. But as a citizen, it comes with rights. You have a right to a passport. You have a right to certain things. You have a right to your life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, so some citizens have more rights than other citizens because they're a different type of citizen. They become part of a political subdivision of some entity, some government entity that calls you an employee, except they relabel it as citizen. So you're under their control and ownership. So I see this as a very conflicted one, because most people aren't going to understand the difference in citizenship and what's associated with that.
Right.
So on one hand, I'm like, yep, I agree. If you're born here, you have rights. You have certain obligations as well, but you have certain rights. You don't have things that you're forced to do. Like, just because you were born in America does not mean you have to have Obamacare. Okay. That's the difference. So we don't want to give Obamacare benefits to somebody who doesn't pay into the Obamacare system. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So Amish people wouldn't apply for Obamacare benefits, and they don't, therefore, are not required to pay into the system. So that's where this gets a little bit fuzzy. As a citizen, you have some rights that are guaranteed you, and you have the right to participate in political associations. If you're allowed to participate in those political associations, that is where this debate will go in the future. If you're born here, do you have a right to vote, or do you need to pay into the tax system to be able to vote? Is your citizenship, as far as voting, more of a shareholder, that you have some ownership, that you have some kind of agreement or contract with the government, and therefore you have a say in its direction? Or are you just a freeloader on the land and you can just do whatever you want and do nothing? Doesn't mean you can commit crimes, because you're under the jurisdiction thereof. Point being, I think this is a pretty complicated issue. I think it would have been really nice if they just said birthright citizenship only to people who have parents that are already citizens. But myself going down that rabbit hole a little bit on what is citizenship, I can see how this decision could go both ways, even from a conservative judge.
But also though, even if we want to, give the kids that are born here citizenship, that does not extend to their parents.
You'd think it would, right? All right. The Supreme Court, though, is missing a huge thing in the zeitgeist. Americans are sick and tired of, quote unquote, foreigners coming into America, taking our jobs, taking our votes, taking our women. It's a big mess. And so Americans, by and large, on both sides of the aisle, support Donald Trump and everything he's trying to do with border security.
How is border security in terms of polling playing right now?
President Trump has been the most transformative president when it comes to border security. And when it comes to border security, particularly, it's paying off for him in the polls. So just take a look here. Okay, net approval rating on border security at this point in the presidency. Look at where Joe Biden was in June of 2022. He was way underwater. Look at this, 23 points underwater. Look at where President Trump is right now. He's actually above water. He is on the positive side of the ledger at +2 points. So he's 25 points more popular than Joe Biden was at this point in his presidency. And the American people, when it comes to President Trump, actually like the job that he's doing when it comes to border security in particular.
So, Harry,
Donald Trump has been severely hampered by the courts in actually deporting people. Right now, part of this is messaging. Part of it was they kind of came out and they made some raids that caught a bunch of news attention. But for the most part, they've been targeting specifically known criminals in the system, whether they're criminals from other countries that came here or they've committed crimes here domestically, they're being deported. So the bulk of the deportations, I think I saw a number, it was like 60 or 70% of them have been this criminal element of it.
Right. Despite all the news stories of them just going through and, you know, sweeping and raiding everybody.
It hasn't been happening like in a fever dream we would want to have happen. Right. And so what's happened here is Donald Trump is actually behind the 8 ball here. He's behind the numbers when it comes to the deporter in chief, Barack Obama himself. Now, with the new DHS secretary, Markwayne Mullins, he has promised to ramp up deportations. Now, there's a lot of side-eyeing on Markwayne Mullins. There's a lot of people believe that he's not going to see this through, but he did an interview on Breitbart News, and he says they are going to ramp it up, and in the next couple weeks, you're going to see them eclipse the numbers from 2025.
Well, first of all, right now, we're on a path this year, 26, to pass what we did in 25. I mean, our numbers are, in fact, within probably within the next 6 weeks, we'll probably pass what we deported all of 25, what we're going to do in 26, maybe 2 months, but I think we'll definitely do it within 2 months, but should be probably 6 weeks at the current rate.
That's pretty good. I mean, they're clearly ramping up the efforts. And there was a huge decision that came out of the Supreme Court that said that temporary status in the United States is temporary. It's not permanent. Now, John Kasich, former governor of Ohio, came out and he's like, no, we can't deport people. And so did Governor Mark DeWine, the current governor of Ohio. Now, what's significant about this? In Ohio is where that story about the Haitians eating the cats and dogs came from, right?
Yeah.
40,000 Haitian immigrants dumped into a population, or was it 20,000 Haitian immigrants dumped into Springfield, Ohio, a city of only 20,000 people.
Whoa.
So imagine the ratios in the schools and things like that. So this has created what I believe is a migrant industrial complex. There are NGOs, there is government funding that's made available because you have these surge numbers. You have Section 8 housing vouchers, you have Medicaid, Medicare. 65+% of all the people here on temporary visas are on government assistance of one form or another. This is a huge burden, and you have Republican governors like Mark DeWine out there begging to keep them in our communities.
Ohio Republican Governor Mike DeWine. Governor, you just heard Secretary Mullen defend the decision. You say it's a mistake. What's your take?
Well, I think it's a mistake for a number of reasons. First of all, to go back to what you were just discussing, you cannot fly into Port-au-Prince today. U.S. carriers are prohibited from going in there. They've extended that ban. Federal officials, the United States, have extended that ban into September now, and it's been there for a long time. The reason they can't go in there is because these gang leaders who control a good part of Haiti today shoot at the planes when they come in. So that's certainly one thing. You've pointed out, advisories, heavy advisories. U.S. citizens do not go into Haiti. It's a very, very dangerous place. Just this last week, several more school children were killed just because gangs were shooting back and forth. Gangs control a significant part of Haiti, so it is clearly not safe. Anybody who has followed Haiti over a long, extended period of time knows that it's worse than it is, frankly, ever been, and certainly in recent memory. But the other point is, it is not in the United States' interest, certainly not in Ohio's interest, to have people who are working every single day, who are supporting a family, who are buying houses, fixing up old houses, starting businesses, and then put deep roots in this country and really are contributing, and yank them out. I mean, look,
65% of them at least are on public assistance, and they're buying houses that my son can't buy.
What is this guy's deal?
I know. Well, they can't go back to Haiti because it's too rough. This is kind of collectivism,
right? I mean, when he's like listing off all these reasons why we can't get it done, it made me think of like when I was a teenager, and it was Mike's turn to buy pizza. He just coming up with reasons why he can't figure out how to get the pizza, like, oh, I can't remember the phone number to call him. Let's see. What else is there? We just can't get this pizza done. I don't know.
It's just too hard. It's too hard. That's the thing. I get the whole asylum program, but it was abused. It was abused, just plain and simple. And you didn't disperse these people across the country. You put them in local communities and overwhelmed them. And you overwhelmed conservative communities almost specifically.
But then he has this wild idea to come up with all these weird reasons why we can't fix it. It's like, I just don't understand.
I know. We need them. We need them. Sounds to me like you've got some government grants. Sounds to me you've got some NGOs working. Because on a net, and I'll show you here in just a minute, these people are costing money. They're not making money.
Look at what the mayor of Springfield says. The mayor says that is a huge, huge mistake. They're contributing. Rob Rue says they're contributing greatly. Mistake to do that. I would cite also the two Ohio congressmen who have probably the most Haitians, Republicans who have the most Haitians in their district, voted in favor of the extension of TPS. So what I would hope that the Trump administration would do is reconsider this. Look at how it's going to impact states like Ohio. In Ohio, the Haitians are working primarily in manufacturing. They're also working in the food area. But if you look at where they're working across the country, probably the most important area they're working is in healthcare. Haitians who many times are taking care of your mom or your dad who has Alzheimer's.
How about no thank you?
Family members who might be in a nursing.
How about all the millennials that can't get jobs, man?
Yeah.
Seriously. It blows my mind. And again, Springfield, Ohio, this news report is reporting that this is MS Now. There's only 15,000 Haitians.
Oh.
But 30% of them own homes. Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Talk about American success story.
Yeah.
From Haiti to homeowner.
Dang.
I know, HL Young 2022. She's in her 40s. I don't think she owns a home yet.
Maybe we are just doing it wrong. We got to start out in Haiti.
Yeah, and they're on public assistance.
This week, the Supreme Court ruling the Trump administration can end the temporary protected status program for over 1 million people, now clearing the way for the Department of Homeland Security to carry out its immigration crackdown. MS Now's Alex Tabbitt has the very latest from Springfield, Ohio. It is home, of course, to a large Haitian community. So, Alex, what are you hearing from those directly affected by this ruling? What's in store for them?
Well, Alex, the over 10,000 Haitians living here in Springfield, Ohio, are facing an impossible decision between
30,000, 20,000, 15,000. We don't really know. So, by the way, given the fact that they can't seem to decide how many Haitians are in Springfield, the percentages also could be a little skewed, by the way.
Returning to Haiti, where the political and economic crises have only gotten worse in recent years, a country that is essentially run by gangs. And the Haitians here tell me that returning to Haiti,
that sounds like Philadelphia.
That sounds like Ohio.
It sounds like New York. It's essentially run by gangs.
Will be going back to that country with a target on their back that these gang members seek out Haitians.
I love how everybody in this protest here is all white, gray hair. There's a brunette. Look, there's a brunette. There's one brunette.
Coming from the United States of America under the assumption that they have money that they can take from these people, or they can stay here in the United States without any legal status anymore, living a life on the margins, living a life in the shadows, afraid to go outside.
Come on, dude, go to Hollywood.
Their children to school. That is the difficult decision the Haitians here in Springfield are facing. I talked to Rose Joseph. She's a Haitian leader here. She also has TPS about this difficult decision. I want to hear what she had to say.
Yeah.
Some employers already talk to their employees, and we receive call this morning from people saying that, unfortunately, starting on July 1st, they won't be able to go to work anymore. It is like a catch-22. It is hard. And I think from yesterday to today, I think the community is just trying to process the news. And I think we are in a question period because people are asking what they're gonna do.
So of the 350,000 Haitians in the United States with TPS, a little over 10,000, close to 15,000 live here in Springfield. The population of Springfield is about 58,000. So with this decision from the Supreme Court, 20% of this community in Ohio overnight has lost their status. That is going to have huge ramifications for the community as a whole.
Okay.
They can't vote. They can't get services. Oh, no.
350,000 Haitians. How many people are in Haiti to begin with?
I don't know. I'll tell you, my experience in prison made me very numb to other people's suffering.
Oh, sure.
Everybody's got a cross to bear. Everybody's life sucks. Everything's horrible.
Everybody.
And it's very difficult because I would love to have enough compassion in my heart for every person suffering in Uganda.
Me too.
Or Haiti or Guyana or whatever these other places. But just my message to them is the same as it is to you and I. Fix your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Fix your hometown. Right. I understand the desire to leave. I understand the desire to run. And there's a time and a place for that. You definitely want to get out of East Berlin before they start building the wall. Okay.
Well, remember the reporter there is like, well, these guys can't go back. I mean, their country was just in trouble.
Here's how I feel like this is the sense to this will happen. If you can't fly planes into Port-au-Prince, they're not going to get deported because they would qualify for more temporary asylum until the situation's figured out. But if you're from Venezuela and we're flying flights there and Trump's running it as the co-president, you can go back. Okay. If you're a criminal in America, then yeah, you're going to go to a third country if you have to. You're leaving.
And also, if you can fly 30,000 or 350,000 people here, how come you can't fly a few thousand back? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's pulling on heartstrings. The reality is nobody's going to be deported to a country that they would legitimately qualify for asylum having been from.
Sure.
It's the ones that are coming from countries that are not at war with us or having disasters. Every freaking thing cannot be a made up disaster. I mean, we were letting people in under temporary asylum status, temporary PTP, whatever.
Protection
status because of climate change.
Right.
How many virgins do we throw in the volcano to get it to stop erupting?
But we know now why Haiti has to leave. It's because they shoot at the planes. You know, we can't send them there.
Shoot at the planes. All right. Sounds like Haiti needs some Iran treatment. Who knows?
Yeah, or some Venezuela treatment.
Yeah, seriously. They got too much Clinton treatment. That's the problem. Spent a lot of money down there and got nothing for it. They're shooting at planes, Ron. They're shooting at planes. Another decision from the Supreme Court came out this morning, and this is on transgender sports. And this is boys playing in girls' sports or vice versa, girls being forced to play in male sports.
U.S. Supreme Court has ruled in favor of Idaho and West Virginia laws, these are state laws now, that ban transgender athletes from participating on female sports teams. So the challenges against those laws have now prevailed. Don't know what the breakdown was. Some thought it might be 9-0. Others were suggesting 7-2. We'll await that and bring in our legal panel, Jonathan Turley, Brett Tolman, former federal prosecutor, and Carrie Severino, former law clerk for Justice Thomas and president of JCN. Okay, Professor Turley, the Supreme Court rules in favor of those laws. Break it down.
This is what we anticipated after the oral argument. The justices appeared to view this as a matter left to the states. This is welcome news for many in the country. This is an issue that polls almost at 70% in favor of keeping sports to biological genders. So this is likely to really spur on other states to follow suit in terms of their own laws. It also reflects the fact that the court previously, in fact, last year, said that transgender status is not a protected class in the sense of race or religion. So that is a consistent position. Particularly justices like Justice Barrett have been extremely outspoken on that point, saying that this is not going to happen, to treat transgender status
as that same type of protected class. And during the argument, the litigators actually sort of tried to avoid that because they knew where the majority of the court was.
So this is good news. And one of the things this also does is it takes a little bit of pressure off the Save America Act, to the extent that one of these Republicans won't vote for it because of the transgender stuff, which I haven't heard that. It takes this off the table. You don't have to have that part of the Save America Act now to fix that, because the Supreme Court, at least when it comes to the issue of girls and boys sports, or boys and girls sports, I guess it goes both directions, that it should have been foreclosed on, that states now can decide. According to the Supreme Court, it says, quote, in the decision, those, quote, physical differences between men and women are enduring. The differences include, among other things, height, weight, strength, speed, endurance, and jumping ability. Therefore, in contact sports, forcing female athletes to compete against males can create significant safety risks. And in virtually all competitive sports, forcing female athletes to compete against males can undermine competitive fairness.
Yeah,
that is a big win. That is a big win. So another decision out of the Supreme Court, 6-3 decision. The Supreme Court has struck down federal limits on how much political parties may spend in coordination with their own candidates, ruling the restrictions violate the First Amendment and overruling the 2001 decision in the Colorado Republican 2. So what this is basically saying is the gloves are off. Spend as much money as you want. So if you thought elections were expensive before, just wait. Act Blue is going to go dry. Going to go dry. All right. Another thing, too, Trump is beating on when it comes to all the things happening in the world. Iran has had a direct effect on gas prices. Oh. Well, now that the price of oil is down, Trump is jumping all over the gas distributors, gas stations, essentially, to lower their prices quickly in conjunction with the drop in oil prices. We've addressed this on the show. As the price of oil goes up, the price at the pump goes up immediately, even though it's going to take 2 weeks to 2 months for the gas in their tanks to actually be gas that was bought at the increased price.
And then the prices take the long slide
down. Jack them up early, and then they trickle them down as the price slides down. So Trump has said, nope, as fast as they went up, they need to come down. If you're pricing based on futures, then continue to price based on futures. So after President calls on gas stations to drop prices to $2.50 a gallon, Scott Bessent tells the gas firms to stop gouging. I would encourage them to be good actors, especially on the 250th anniversary, because we're watching. So here is Scott Bessent saying just that on a Fox News.
President Trump, we've got a chart of how quickly the prices went up and how they followed crude, and we're going to hold them accountable on the other side. President Trump talked about it the past week. He had a very powerful Truth Social yesterday. So I would encourage all the gasoline retailers. Some of them are owned by big oil. Some are independent. Some are national convenience chains. I would encourage them to be good actors, especially in the 250th anniversary, because we're watching. We've got a chart of how quickly.
Yeah, we're keeping out. So let's watch it, Ron. Every day when I drive in, I'll look at the price of gas and let's see if it plummets. I think we're paying about $4.95 right now for a gallon of unleaded.
I thought it was $5 still.
That's about $5. That's about $5. I think I saw as low as $4.50 somewhere. All right, guys, we are going to jump over into a private stream. I appreciate you sticking around to the very end here. A little bit longer than we've been the rest of the month. We're trying to keep the show time down a little bit, except for today. Today, we're going to stream and we're going to get on the private, and then I'm going to stream some more later today. It's probably just going to be me sitting at my desk. I don't want to have expectations too high, but please jump in and say hi if you see a notification for a stream. And with that, we will talk to you again tomorrow. Hope you had a great June. Okay, we are on the private stream. Okay, Donald Trump also signed an executive order yesterday